Hey guys, it's Penguin here, and welcome back to another goal making video. Today, this is going to be part 3 of our Old World Profession series, and today we are going to be talking about Old World Alchemy, with everything that is worth it to be made with every single expansion for alchemy. Now, like I said, this is part 3 in our series. We have covered engineering as well as tailoring, so if you are interested in any of those two professions, be sure to go check out those previous videos. They are from the last 2 weeks, so just looking back in my previous videos, you should be able to see them. But yeah, guys, but before we go straight into the crafting and the recipes, I do want to talk a few things about alchemy itself. Now, I see alchemy as a very complementary profession, as in there's a lot of transmutes and there's a lot of crafts that you can do to help minimize the crafting cost for other items. For example, there's a very big transmute that we'll be talking about, which can save you hundreds of gold for crafting Pandarian panthers. Now, there's also a ton of crafts that you're going to be doing, which involves the Vial of the Sands. And of course, you can sell the products from these transmutes and from the crafts on the auction house as well. However, some of these are going to have a pretty low sell rate because they're used primarily, let's say, for panthers or primarily for Vial of the Sands. And if somebody is crafting either of those two items, they already have alchemy and they're already probably doing the same transmutes yourself. So, of course, the items are still going to sell, but some items, and of course I will highlight which ones, are going to have a lower sell rate than normal that I like to show off because a lot of people just craft them themselves because they already have access to all of those craftings, etc. However, I still want to highlight a lot of these things because a lot of them can still just be sold straight on the auction house, and of course, if you do have droid crafting or you do have other professions, this can help you out with just your daily crafting and everything like that. Now, the last thing I want to mention is that normally I would recommend always having 2 alchemists. The reason for that is for Old World, which is anywhere between Pandaria and older, so Pandaria, Cataclysm, TBC, etc., Wrath. No, all of those have the ability to have 2 different masteries. So you have Elixir Master as well as Transmute Master. Now, it kind of, just like their name, basically, Transmute Master will give you extra procs whenever you're performing transmutes. Now, of course, I'll show those off. And Elixir Master does the opposite, and it gives you procs whenever you craft potions/elixirs. So, of course, it's only procs with Pandaren and any recipes that's prior to that, so nothing from Draenor, nothing from Legion, nothing from BFA, and of course nothing from Shadowlands. However, it is very important for you to pick up these masters. Now, you can only have one of them, which is why you always want 2 alchemists, because you want to have a potion master as well as the transmute master, so whenever you're crafting both, you can make sure you get the best out of all your materials that you're spending. Now, to get these, you'll want to go to your major city after leveling up your vanilla alchemy to max. So leveling up your vanilla alchemy to 300, you can go to your major city, so either Org or Stormwind, and you can make your way and go to your trainer. Now, there'll be 2 quests, which you just have to turn in 4 living steel ingots, which you can just buy off the auction house, or you can craft them yourself, and that will unlock the mastery. For this character that I'm going to be showing off on, you can see under professions, as you can see, I am the Transmutation Master. So, I am not a Elixir Master, however, it doesn't really matter, because this is just showing off recipes and everything like that. But to make sure you do have a mastery, you can check right here, and it'll tell you everything you need to know. But with that being said, I just wanted to get those 2 things out of the way, because alchemy is a little bit of a special profession, and with that being said, let's get right into it. Alright, so getting into this, the first thing we have is classic or vanilla alchemy, and as you can see, everything is leveled up besides Legion, but we're going to go only to Pandaria for this video because that is all of the masteries that are covered. However, let's just start with the basic, and that is classic vanilla. Now, alchemy is a little bit different because normally you will not be taking in a level 1 or a vanilla potion inside of a Shadowlands raid because it's basically useless for you. I mean, if we want to hover over this mana potion, it gives you 120 mana, and it has a 5-minute cooldown. So there is no reason why a max level, or any character that's probably above the level 15 or 20 mark, should be using this potion. Which is what makes alchemy pretty tricky, because a lot of potions are basically useless after the expansion passes, or even a patch comes out that comes after whatever potions are released. However, there is a big system in the game, which is called creating twinks, and basically those are characters that are capped at a certain level, And so they use all of the older potions and everything like that to basically get ahead in world PvP, in normal PvP, in other duels type scenarios or anything like that. So specifically, a lot of these old world potions are referred to twinks, and that is what I have listed right here. Now, if you guys want to look at the whole document that I've found, I'm on this website right here. Basically, it is just a comprehension guide to level 1 twinking inside of Shadowlands. This was the most updated guide I was able to see, as you can see, last updated May 14th of 2021. So this is some pretty good documents. Now, of course, this just goes through what twinking is and exactly how to play it. But the part that we are looking at right here is all the way at the bottom, and we're talking about items, buffs, mobilities, all of these consumable sections right here. Now, if you click on this, basically they just list out a ton of things. For example, the minor healing potion, the expedition potion, the dark moon healing, and the gladiator's healing potion. They just talk about all these different potions, and of course, there's like Drums of Fury, and there's other non-alchemy related items, but you just scroll through. You can go under the buff section, which has more elixirs inside of it. Then you can look at mobility, and as you can see, they have the slow fall potions and everything like that. So definitely taking a look at this guide and see if you can actually craft any of these items. Now, the ones that I have included in this list, as you can see, I have like the minor healing, but I do not have the expedition healing potion because some of them do require extra farming to get their recipes, or you have to go to the Dark Moon Fair, or anything like that. And of course, this series is strictly just about vendor items. So the list is pretty dumbed down to basically all just the vanilla vendor items that are used for twinks. So if you are looking for more of a complete guide, or to see if you possibly already have some of these potions either laying around, or you have these potions, able to be crafted, or you can just go out and buy these potions and post them on the auction house. This is a full guide of basically what they all use. So definitely looking at this website, it's on XPOF, a community post right here by Jones. So it's very useful. A lot of people were saying that this was a very great guide. I don't know everything about twinking, but that is basically why all of these potions are good. Now, as you can see, I do have 6 of the potions highlighted, and currently they are actually negative profit for me. Some of them are. That's just due to some very inflated prices of the old herbs. However, I did still put them on this list because they might not be inflated for you, and they do have some pretty good sell rates. I mean, if we do want to look at the minor healing potion, as you can see, it does have a 0.07 sale rate, which is pretty good. It's pretty good for an old world item, and I mean, if they don't go for 12 silver on your server, then you can definitely make some profit. Honestly, you can also probably buy these out and post them yourself if you want to do kind of a flip. I'm not exactly sure. Once again, this is the twink market, so of course you kind of have to do that to whatever advantage and everything you know about the market. However, the 6 potions I am talking about is the minor defense, the lion strength, the healing potion, and then we have the arcane elixir, the elixir of greater intellect, as well as the weak troll's blood elixir. So those are the 6 potions I want to highlight today. Of course, you can go through here, and as you can see, some of these potions have very high sell rates, higher than what I would have expected. So if you do see some good profit on these, you can definitely just test them out, test the waters, everything like that. However, these are the 6 that I do want to highlight. Now, going on, we have transmutes, which once again, if you do want to do these transmutes, I highly recommend Transmute Mastery. Now, if you only have one alchemist, I generally always pick Transmute Mastery over Elixir Mastery just because there's so many profitable transmutes. However, it's personal preference, and so yeah. But the 2 I am going to highlight is the Transmute Arcanite as well as the Transmute Mithril to True Silver. Now, technically, the Arcanite one is not a vendor recipe. However, the only way that you have to get it is you just have to make your way over to Tanaris. And then inside of Gadgetzan, there will be a little tent with the alchemist guy, and he sells the recipe for I think it's like 2 gold or a few silver or something. Maybe it's 5 gold, but it's very easy to get. You just have to make your way to Gadgetzan and just pick up that recipe. The only thing it requires is, I think, level 250 alchemy. However, I do highly recommend maxing out your alchemy to get all these things, but this is one of the most profitable transmutes that I do, and it is very, very worth it. Now, moving on to the Mithril True Silver. Once again, this is just a standard transmute that you get, and the profit isn't huge. However, it can be very helpful. For example, I'm buying the Mithril at about 3 gold on my realm, and I'm selling the True Silver for about 12 gold. So kind of quadrupling the price that you're getting in with that 3 gold, and you're going to get about 12 gold out of it. Now, as you can see, with all of these things, there's only about 26 items, and we're going to make a solid 4k profit, or 4.5k profit. Nothing huge, however, if you do a lot of more of these transmutes, and of course, if you do have the mastery, you're going to get procced, so if you do 10 transmutes, maybe you'll get 12 or 15 of the items, depending on how lucky you are, but definitely these transmutes are the best. For example, if you want to do 50 Arcanite bar transmutes, as you can see, our total profit moves all the way from 5,000 all the way back up to 20,000. So definitely these transmutes are the way to go, and as well you could experiment with all of these potions. But that is basically it for vanilla, and we're going to move on to TBC. Alright, so moving on, now we have TBC Alchemy. Now TBC is very basic, there's not a ton of recipes, just strictly learned from the vendor or anything like that. However, there are a few transmutes to look at. Now, of course, you can go through here and look at some potions, see if anything catches your eye with some sell rates. However, there's nothing that I'm going to put out there and show that you really need. However, you can, of course, take your time to look through all of these and possibly just test the waters and see what works. However, what we're going to be highlighting is actually 4 of the transmutes. Now, one of them I do not have learned, however, I will show you it in just a second, but these are the primal transmutes. Now, as you will see in the next coming expansions that we're going to be talking about, the transforming one type of item to another type is a very common transmute inside of alchemy. For example, you're turning a primal fire into a primal mana. This is just a very common practice, and there's a lot of transmutes that are just like this. Now, of course, depending on the primal, more of these are worth it to do than others. For example, a standard primal earth goes anywhere for about 50-ish gold to 100 gold. On my server, it's pretty expensive at the 77 mark. However, region market value is about 50 gold. So buying these primal earths and turning them into a more expensive primal is definitely worth it. For example, the primal life is currently going for 500 gold on my server, and it has a region market average for about 250 gold. So you're taking something that only has a market value of about 50, and you're turning it into 250. Another reason why the price difference is so big on these is because the primal earth isn't as used as much as the life, and the life is also in a lot more of the more expensive items for crafting. Now, as you can see, we have the fire mana one. Now, this one I would say look out for. For example, the primal mana right now goes for about 430 gold region average. And the primal fire actually goes for about 670 gold with region average. So actually, most of the time, this probably will not be worth it. And as you can see, the sell rate is a lot lower on the mana compared to the fire. So I probably wouldn't recommend this one. However, if it does have a positive profit, there's no hurt in trying it. Maybe the manas will actually move faster on your server than fires. However, primal fires is one of probably the most popular primals, so I'd probably stay away from this one. Now, skipping the primal might, we have the primal water to shadow, which I would not recommend most of the time. Primal waters go for about 400 gold, while shadows only go for about 200. So I would probably not recommend this one. Now, just to make sure that you know about all the primal transmutes, there is one that we are unable to do. As you can see, there's actually a few that we're unable to do. However, all of these are locked behind rep. However, there are 2 right here that are actually locked behind possible transmutes. So to get these, you will have to do the other previous transmutes that I showed you, and completing those, you will have the possibility of unlocking these other 2 ones. So this one is just kind of the opposite, transforming life into earth. And then, of course, you have the transmuting mana into fire. So if the fire into mana isn't profitable, probably this one is. Or, for example, if the life one is not profitable, then this one turning it into earth will probably be possible. Of course, you have these better ones right here, which you're turning air into fire and etc. However, these are locked behind reputation. So going back, that's the ones that I'm not covering inside of TSM because I don't have those personally, and of course, they technically are out of our barrier that we're going to be showing today. Now, lastly, the one that I do want to show off is Primal Might, and as you can see, there is some extraordinary profit on this item. Now, the only downside of this item is that it is not a vendor item. You will have to make your way to Satrath City. Right here, on top of this little platform, there will be right here the alchemy supplies person, and you just learn the recipe right here. As you can see, it actually only costs about 7 gold to pick up, and it has a 0.02 sell rate, and you can actually sell this for 1,000 gold on its own. So definitely, If you do want to just pick up this item, sell it, go for it, but of course you do want to pick this up and learn it for yourself. It's right by the actual alchemy trainer inside of Shatrath, so it's pretty easy, it's not very hard to get to and everything like that, and it's 100% worth it. Now, the reason why these primal mites are so useful is that they are used for some of the very, very big ticket items inside of the game. I feel like many people have heard about the Fellsteel Longblade, Fellsteel Reaper, you have the Dragon Maw, hammer, you also have all of the Battlecast armor, you have so many different very big ticket items, you have the White Men set, you have Spell Strike set, all of those, and they all require these primal mites. Now, as you can see on my server right now, they're going for about 10k each and have a 0.02 sell rate, while the region market average is about 5k. And of course, right now, it just requires all the different primals, and it costs about 2k in primals to actually craft this item. So on my server, it has about a 7k profit, but on most servers, I'll probably have anywhere between a 2 to 3k profit. These are one of the items that I was kind of talking about at the beginning of this video, which means these items will not sell fast. Now, the reason why the primal mite will not sell fast is because it's a very easy recipe to unlock, and if there's somebody with the Fellsteel Longblade pattern, or with any of these other rare transmog sets, they probably also have an alchemist, and they probably just craft it all themselves, because they know they can save a ton of gold by actually just crafting it instead of going to the auction house. Because of that, the primal mite's sell rate is pretty low because most of the time they are just crafted by the individual. However, that does not mean that somebody lazy will come around, or somebody who does not have the alchemy profession or anything like that, and they still want to actually craft the item. Now, of course, if you are a crafter yourself and you do have any of these sets, if you do have the Fellsteel Longblade pattern or any of the other patterns that require this is 100% worth it to get just for yourself. And keep in mind, Transmute Mastery, you might even get a few of these for free, and it can break down your profits a ton. So definitely getting this for yourself, even if you're not a huge crafter, can be very, very beneficial. But of course, just keep in mind that the sell rates might be pretty slow just due to the fact that most big-time crafters will just be doing this same craft for themselves without buying it off the auction house. But with TBC, with honestly just these 3 crafts, doing 10 of each, the estimated profit is about 77k, and it cost about 30k to make. Alright, moving on to alchemy for Wrath of the Lich King, or Northrend Alchemy, we do just have a few transmutes to show off. Like I've said with all of the previous expansions and items that we've talked about, there are a few potions that you can look and to see if it's worth it on your server. As you can see, there's a few elixirs with some good sell rates, etc., and everything like that. However, there's nothing that's super, super beneficial, and so we're just going to be talking about transmutes. Now, the first one is the Titanium Bar. Now, this is a very important transmute, and this can make you a ton of gold. Now, what this transmute does is that it just turns 8 Serenite bars into a Titanium bar. Now, currently, Serenite goes for about 35 to 50 gold on my server, and the region market average is about 58. Now, as you can see, Titanium right now on my server is going for 500 gold, and the region average is about 300 to 400, so this is a very good transmute to do. Now, once again, if you have Transmute Mastery, instead of actually paying 8 Serenite per bar, depending on how many craft, you can get it down to like about 6.5 to 7 bars equaling 1 Titanium because of how many procs you get. Now, this could proc once during 100 crafts. This could proc, 50 times during 100 crafts. It's all kind of RNG based. However, this is just very, very nice to have. Especially if you craft a Titan Steel, if you have a miner, those are required for like the Mechano Chopper, a lot of those type of mounts, as well as those type of chest piece items and everything like that blacksmithing needs, as well as engineering. So Titanium is very useful for this. So this is a very, very good transmute. Even if you just want to sell the Titanium bars themselves, very, very good. I highly recommend. Now, the other transmutes we're going to be talking about is just like the primals. However, it is the Eternals. Now, the one thing about Eternals is that you have to be careful because Eternals can be bought from a vendor. Now, the vendor, if you do not have any reputation, you can buy these Eternals for 75 gold apiece, while if you have max reputation, you can actually buy these Eternals for 60 gold. So, of course, paying anything over that 75 gold mark, or 60 if you have the reputation, it's just not worth it, and there's no point in doing these transmutes. Now, another thing is that these also share a cooldown with other transmutes. For example, Living Steel and Pyrium Bars are all on a daily cooldown. You can only do the transmute once a day, and these transmutes actually are on a shared cooldown with those. So if you choose to do one of these Eternal transmutes, then you cannot do the Living Steel one and the Pyrium one. Same goes if you do the Living Steel one, you cannot do the Pyrium or the Eternal one. So normally these are really not worth it compared to those other two transmutes. However, if you have multiple Alchemists, if you do have all transmute mastery, then actually looking at some of these can do some really good profit. Now the ones I have highlighted is some of the pretty cheap Eternals turning into the more expensive one. The first thing we have is the Air. Now, as you can see, the Air has an average sell rate for about 100 gold. However, the Eternal Earth only has about a 10 to 20 gold value. So you're turning that 10 to 20 gold into 100 gold or 200 gold with that transmute. The next one that we have is the Primal Fire one. Now you do have to be careful because, as you can see, life right now is pretty cheap on my server, which is why this is profitable. You can sell this for about 25 gold, which the market average is actually 100. So normally this is not very profitable. However, Eternal Fires and Waters are one of the most popular of the Eternals. So if this does become profitable, definitely something you can look out for. The next thing we have is the Internal Shadows. Once again, you're picking up those earths that are worth anywhere between 10 to 20 gold, and you're crafting this into an item that's worth anywhere between 40 to 80 gold. So definitely looking out for that one is pretty good. And then lastly, you have the Shadow to Life, which you're taking the shadow that's anywhere between 40 to 80 gold, and you're crafting it into the Life, which generally sells for about 100 gold. Of course, on my server, it's selling for about 25 right now. I generally would not say that you should do one of these every single day because, like I said, Living Steel and Pyrium, which we'll be discussing in just a second, will of course probably be the best for you to do. However, if you do have a ton of Alchemists, you do have a ton of transmutes that you want to do, of course this is an option. Or let's say you only have Alchemy for some reason. If you did not choose to level anything else up, definitely spending your time to do this is some free gold on itself. But with that being said, with all these transmutes, you're going to make about a 3.6k profit, and the estimated cost will be about 5.5k. Alright, so moving on to Cataclysm. Cataclysm is probably one of the best expansions that you can do for Alchemy, especially Old World Alchemy, and as you can see on the list, I do have a Vial of the Sands. Now, of course, Vial of the Sands is a very tricky recipe to get. I've already done a whole video on mounts and actually how to get the Vial of the Sands and everything like that. But the reason why I have this on the list is to explain why I have all of the other materials on the list. Now, first, going into the recipe itself, as you can see, you need a deep stone oil, you need 2 flasks, and then you need true gold. Now, all of these are crafted within alchemy itself, which is why it's very important to showcase this mount. As you can see, the first 2 flasks that I'm showing you is required strictly for the Vial of the Sands. Normally, if you look at this flask, it increases agility for 3 by 13 for 1 hour, and the Titanic strength does strength by 13 for an hour. So just looking at this as an elixir, as a flask, it's pretty pointless. Like, there would be no reason on why you should and why you would craft this item. However, since they are a crafting reagent for the Vial of the Sands itself, which is why it turns out to be worth it. Now, these are another flask item which, kind of like the Primal Might, it is a slow seller. As you can see, the sell rate of these 2 flasks is only 0.02, which is pretty low, especially for a crafted item. Now, the reason for this is if you are somebody who's crafting Vial of the Sands, you already have alchemy maxed out because that's a requirement, and because of that, you're probably just crafting these potions on your own. However, some people are too lazy to do that, or sometimes the prices of herbs can change, where actually just strictly buying the flask becomes cheaper than actually getting the herbs itself. So because of that, that is the reason why you can still try to sell these on the auction house. Now, of course, the sell rate is very slow, and it's probably going to take a while to actually sell these. Just plainly on the auction house. However, if you do plan on crafting the vials yourself, this is definitely the way to go because you do need to craft these items eventually. Now, with that being said, as you can see, they both have over 1,000 gold profit, while the Winds has a 900 gold, and then the Titanic Strength has about a 1,700 gold. So it evens out, but these both have some pretty good profit on them if you can get them to sell, and I've queued up 8 because that's how many you need for one Vial of the Sands craft. Now, moving on to that, we have the Deep Stone Oil. Now, generally, the Deep Stone Oil actually says that it has negative profit, and that's because the albino cavefish are very expensive on my realm. However, as you can see, the region average is only about 155 gold, and as you can see, the region sale average is only about 77 gold. Now, these cavefish themselves are very easy to go farm up. It's in Deep Home. It's literally like the only that you can fish up inside of the pools on top of Deep Home. Definitely worth doing, and the reason for that is because, once again, a Deep Stone Oil is needed for the Vial of the Sands. Now, the beneficial thing about this is that you get a ton of Deep Stone Oil every time you craft this. Now, whenever you craft one, yes, you might get 1, but you also might get 2, you might get 5, you might get 3. The procs on this item is very, very good. So technically, as you can see, currently buying this, if I were able to buy this at 155 gold and I was able to sell my potions or sell the oil at 155 gold, that's actually going to have profit within it just because of how frequently this item procs. So looking for Deep Stone Oil, picking up insanely cheap cavefish is definitely going to be the way to go. As you can see, I've purchased some from 28 silver, and I've also purchased some up to 200 gold. And as you can see, my average is about 20 gold. So definitely looking for these albino cavefish very cheaply. Turning it into the Deep Stone Oil is going to be very beneficial. And of course, you can just sell this oil straight on the auction house, or you can use it for your Vial of the Sands craft. Now, the next items we're going to talk about is actually transmutes. And so we are looking at the True Gold Transmute. Now, once again, you need 12 of these to craft the Vial of the Sands, which is why these sell and why these are needed. As you can see, it has a 0.02 sell rate, and just how I said about the flask, the same standard point of mind goes with this transmute. For example, not many people are going to be buying True Gold because if they are crafting the Vial of the Sands, they're probably making their own. However, that's not to say that somebody will come around and buy it eventually. Now, as you can see, it requires a few volatiles to actually craft this item, and it requires Pyrium bars, which goes into our next transmute, which is just Pyrium bars themselves. Now, this is probably my favorite transmute by far. The reason for this is just because how cheap it is and how much profit you can get out of it. For example, it cost 1 Elementium bar and it cost 1 volatile earth, and you get 3 Pyrium bars out of this standard. Now, an Elementium bar goes for about 35 gold on my server, and a volatile earth goes for about 13 gold. So taking that, 35 plus that 13, that's about a 48. We can round that up to a 50 gold crafting cost. As you can see, Pyrium bars goes for about 130 gold on my auction house. Now the thing is, this recipe creates 3 Pyrium bars. You're not turning 50 gold into 130 gold, you're actually turning 50 gold into 390 gold because you're getting 3 of these bars. Now that is without Transmute Mastery. So if you have Transmute Mastery, this can proc all the way up to either 5 or 6. I think it's 6, but most of the time I think the highest I've seen is possibly 5. But either way, I mean, turning 50 gold into anything that's, 600 gold value if you get 5 of them, 700 gold value if you get 6 of them. The profit margins on this is insane. Now, Pyrium bars sell very fast. Of course, they are in old world items, so you can't expect them to sell just like Shadowlands items. However, these sell really nicely for the old world material it is. As you can see, it has a 0.04 sell rate, and it sells about 12 a day, and the profit on these are crazy. If you are a Vials crafter, you can complete this once a day. Completed it, and I only got 3, and I can turn that into my 1 True Gold, because you need 3 Pyriums per True Gold. So definitely, Pyrium bars is probably my favorite transmute to do, and of course, it does share a cooldown, like I said. So if you do a Eternal or a Living Steel cooldown, you will not be able to do these Pyrium bars. However, we're going to be talking about that Living Steel next, but that is probably my favorite Cataclysm item as well as my favorite transmute to do inside of Alchemy on my server. Lastly, we do have some just basic potions to show you. One I'm going to show off is the Potion of Treasure Finding, probably one of the most famous potions you can craft. The reason for this is all the gold farmers need these for volatile farms, for any single type of Cataclysm farm, whether that's salvage leather, whether that's crocodiles, whether that's volatiles, anything like that, you do need these potions. So crafting crafting these are very good, and if you have that elixir mastery, then of course you can proc and hopefully get some for free. But these are very good, sell for about a 0.03 sell rate, and of course all the gold makers are going to love you for crafting these and letting them buy them. Now lastly, I do have these elixir of the mighty speed on here. The reason for that is just there's a few elixirs that you can look for and just kind of mess around with for this one in general. It literally just gives you some haste, but it does have a pretty good profit margin on these, and it does have a 0.04 sell rate. And also, just looking at these like potions of deep home, all it does is teleport the person to deep home. Some of these are kind of silly, but because they are silly, people buy them. For example, the illusion, it transforms somebody to look like somebody else, so they're not very useful. However, just crafting these and selling these can be fun. Somebody just wants to play around. As you can see, it does have a 0.04 sell rate, so it is very high and everything like that. But these are just some fun potions to mess around, so definitely taking a look at this list and seeing any profit can definitely be worth your while. But that is Cataclysm, and we're going to be moving on to the final expansion, which is Pandaria. Alright, so moving on to the final expansion we're going to be talking about, we have Pandaria, and we have just a ton of transmutes to show off. Now, of course, you can take a look and look at through these potions and try them. Some of them have a 0.09, some of them have a 0.06 sell rate, so you can, of course, look through these, add these to your list. I mean, some of these only craft about 10 to 5 gold to craft these, so trying to sell them, I mean, maybe you'll find something that really works on your server. So definitely looking at these, testing them out can definitely be the way to go. However, the ones we're going to be looking at today is just transmutes. And now, as you can see, to the left, we have the 4 gems, and that is what we're going to be discussing first. Now, these gems are unique because you need these for all of the Pandarian Panthers, which you craft in jewel crafting. So each color is corresponding to each type of gem, and so you need 20 of each of these gems in order to craft a panther. So actually, because of that, we are going to create 20 of each just to show us in this video if we were to craft 20 of each, because that's how much you need for a panther. Now, the reason why these are so good is because it takes the green gems, which is just the uncommon, not very special gems, and turns it into the very, very expensive gems. Now, as you can see, the profit is huge on these. Now, the reason for that is because it is just a simple green gem, and you combine it with a golden lotus, and it creates the very rare ones. Now, looking at this one right here, it cost about 10 gold in order to buy a sunstone gem. Combining it with a golden lotus, with on my server, goes for about 60 gold. However, we can take that region market value of about 100 gold, so that cost us about maybe 120 gold to craft, and as you can see, it turns us into a Sun Radiance, which goes for about anywhere between 150 to 219 gold from the region market average. So this is standard, like a 70 gold profit just by doing a simple transmute. And that's basically like all of these. For the River's Heart, you turn a Lapis Lazuli, which market average goes for about 6 gold. As you can see, it's inflated right now. Taking, let's say, 100 gold Golden Lotus, so 106 crafting cost, you're turning it into an item worth 150 to 220. Moving on, we have the Wild Jade, which once again, 100 Golden Lotus, 15 gold, so 115 gold, you're turning it into, once again, another 150. And just doing these right here can make you a ton of gold in itself. The one that we missed was the ruby, so you're taking 15, so 115 crafting cost, and this ruby sells for anywhere between 130 and 230. Now, of course, on my server, the crafting profits are even better, because I buy my golden lotus. As you can see, my smart average buy price is only 30 gold, which I know is crazy low, but because of that, my crafting cost for these items is basically like under 50 gold, because for this one right here, 31 gold plus 15, that brings it to about 46, and I'm turning it into an item worth 133. So the profit margin is insane. It's like 90 gold per ruby just on my server. Now, because of this, once again, if you do have a transmute mastery, you can proc these and you end up getting just free gems. So if you do want to craft the panthers yourself, let's say you craft 20 of the Wild Jade, and you actually get 25 out of it. So you can either save that 5 for your next Panther, and you technically get a free 5, so you only have to craft 15, or you can post that 5 on the auction house and see if anybody will purchase them themselves. Now, as you can see, the sell rates is anywhere between 0.04 to 0.05. They sell really good, and These are just one of my favorite transmutes to do, and they're on no cooldown or anything like that, so the more you do, the better. Moving on, we have the Trillium Transmute, which it's just 10 Ghost Iron bars, and it creates 1 Trillium ingot. Now right now, this is actually very profitable for me, because as you can see, the Trillium bar is inflated to about 400 gold. On average, it sells for about 200 gold on my server. As you can see, the market value is about 235 gold. So bars right now go for about 20 gold, so it's about a 200 gold crafting cost, and I'm turning it right now into a bar worth 400 gold, but standard, this probably wouldn't be very profitable for me, maybe only a 15 gold profit, but it is definitely something that you can do if it is very profitable in your realm, definitely something to look out for. And lastly, we have the living steel, which I have been talking about this whole time, and there's 2 different ways to do this. The first one is that you have that daily cooldown, which once again is paired with Pyrium, as well as the internals. Now, as you can see, right now it says it's on cooldown because I crafted that 3 Pyrium bars earlier. So I did not craft this today, simply it's because I did the Pyrium craft already, so this one is locked out. However, generally, it costs 6 trillion bars to create, and it creates you 1 living steel with possibly a proc if you have the transmute mastery, like I've always said before. This one's pretty decent on my server. Living steel is very expensive on my server. It goes for about 2,000 gold, and the region market is about 1,200. So if the price was actually about 1,200 gold, I'd be losing a ton of gold. However, that is okay, because I honestly don't really do this one because it's just not very profitable, and I prefer to do the Pyrium one because I craft a lot of Viola Sands. Now, most of the time, a lot of people will do the living steel one for living steel for sky golems, living steel just to sell in general, and just a lot of the Pandarian crafts need living steel. So there's a lot of alt armies that you can do with alchemy in order, as well as engineering to do the type of sky golem builds. So every day you craft a living steel, every day you craft one of the jards, and in 30 days you have your own sky golem that you can sell in the auction house, times however many characters you set it up for. So definitely living steel is the way to go on probably most servers. Just make sure you look at your prices. Now, lastly, we have the Riddle of Steel, which is the same thing as the transmute, however, there is no cooldown on it, but generally it's more expensive to complete. For example, you only need 3 trillion bars, however, you do need 3 spirits of harmony, and especially during today's time, where all the bots and everything like that has kind of stopped doing all of the spirits and the Pandarian botting. As you can see, the spirit prices are back up like crazy. I remember a ton of people back in BFA, back in WoD and everything was buying these items for 50 gold, and now you have to spend over 200 gold to get a Spirit of Harmony. So normally, if you really need living steel, of course you can do this method, but normally the profit is not very good because of spirits being so highly priced. But as you can see, it costs about 1,700 in order to craft this item, and it's still about a 200 gold profit, but it's not as good as just doing the daily cooldown. So definitely a way to do so, and of course it procs as well. However, it's pretty expensive to do and probably won't be very profitable on most servers. But with those 110 items crafted, or just those simple 7 recipes, it's going to be about an 18.6k profit after about a 36k investment. But guys, that is basically it. That was a lot of talking, that was a lot of saying transmutes, and that was just a lot of items to showcase y'all. So I hope that kind of gives you an idea on how to go about alchemy. I've had a lot of requests about old world alchemy, just because it's kind of one of those professions that there's so many different potions, but really potions are one of those items that do phase out. Just like food and other consumables, there's no reason to be using a potion that gives you 13 mana when you can have a potion that gives you 5,000 mana. So really, it's just one of those things that you kind of have to play around with. All servers are different, and of course, some of those fun random elixirs will sell. You just kind of have to give it a chance and just try it out. So some of the things I probably missed today, feel free to leave it in the comments down below. Of course, some of those potions that I did not mention are probably going to end up being possibly good sellers. Of course, you just have to test and see what the best you can do on your server. But guys, that is basically it. Once again, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to check out my Twitch down below. I'm live streaming 4 days a week, and I just graduated, so hopefully within a few weeks, probably within the next month, we will have a schedule change which will actually allow EU users to catch more streams frequently, because right now streams are pretty late at night. But yeah guys, that is basically it. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, give me any ideas, give me any feedback, anything like that. I highly encourage, and I'm very grateful whenever I get some. But thank you guys so much, and Have a good day.